Hey everyone, welcome to Two Moms, Too Much Coffee. We're two best friends, we're two new moms, and two women just trying to survive on no sleep, especially Jhshell.
Especially me. It's been a week, this past week. Well, I'm Jhshell, and of course, Tempestt, did you introduce yourself?
I am Tempestt, mom of two.
And I'm Jhshell, new mom of one. We're so excited to start this podcast. So first and foremost, though, how do we get here? Let's kind of dig into that.
It all goes back to sixth grade.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it certainly has been a long time. It was like, well, without giving away how old I am, it's been 20 plus years.
Yes. 20 plus years since Tempestt walked up to me the first day of school and introduced herself. And we've pretty much been best friends ever since. Of course, we've had our middle school arguments.
Oh.
But here we are. Now we're two moms with babies that were born a day apart from each other.
Which is wild. Although very planned by me specifically, but...
Yes, very planned by you. But people do ask, like, did you guys have a pact to like at the same time? I'm like, no. But if we did... and we got it that solid, that's amazing.
But you have the time of your ovulation dates, which is insane.
Literally, we were sending each other ovulation dates, which I wouldn't have been opposed to, but we didn't do that. So we both were actually, you were due January.
I was due January 19th.
Okay. And I was due January 25th. So the fact that we were still early and then it was a day apart is just insane to me.
Yeah. The cosmics aligned. I think that's all the stars aligned.
All the stars aligned. And then we have our nuggets here too.
Yeah.
Perfect day.
Apologies for any of the baby noises, but
the baby snoring that you're gonna get here. All right. So what's our topic for today, Tempestt?
So our topic is our birth stories. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the unexpected of how everything happened with our births. And we're going to focus on my second birth with Miss Sequoia here. Not my first.
We love the first.
No,
or when he listens to this in like 5 years. Not saying we don't love you.
Yeah, exactly. We love you. It's just way too much information. We'll do it on a different day.
So, Tempestt, why don't you start? Since you kind of have more experience with labor and also not digging into like super negatives, because no mom really wants to dig into that too much. But kind of like, how were you feeling up to your labor? How was labor? How did it go?
Yeah, so mine was very, very medical because I was induced. And I was induced because of high blood pressure. After my first, I developed chronic hypertension. And when I got pregnant with my second, I just was not allowed to have a quote unquote spontaneous labor. I had to be to make sure that I was alive at the end.
Yeah.
So how I was feeling was relatively calm. It's kind of nice to know when you're going to go into labor. Like that feels much better than like, oh, is this labor? Is this your labor? So that part it felt pretty good for sure.
For sure. How do you feel like the fact that, you said that it was like a good feeling of knowing what to expect. Did it make you more anxious though, like leading up to it, like the day before, since you did know that it was going to happen, or were you just completely chill?
I would say that it certainly made me more nervous because it was different than the first. So I had to like, they're going to give me the Folly balloon and they're going to pop my water. So I just felt, who knows what that is going to feel like. And so I certainly was really nervous about that. But also my son was home from daycare the day I was getting induced. So that made it even more stressful.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, so that made it a little bit, a little harder, unfortunately.
Yes, you definitely have a different experience, and just in general from having a toddler on your hands, and then versus me, I just have a dog and a cat and a husband. He's there too.
What about you? How were you feeling leading up to your big day?
I was definitely nervous. There was just so much unknown because of like my medical situation of I still have it, but an 8 centimeter fibroid that was not discovered until birth or until I got pregnant. So that first ultrasound. And so I didn't know if I was going to end up having a C-section or if she was going to come naturally. I wanted to have a natural birth with no medication, no epidural, anything like that. So I'm already a very anxious person. So I definitely was super nervous of just the unknown. And then, of course, I'm an African-American woman living in today's world. So I just didn't want to die. But I mean, I feel like the day before when I started getting contractions, I actually was more calm than I thought I would have been, but that's here nor there. And then what was your other question? What is the other one?
Do you have any biggest fears? Any fears that were going to happen before labor, not while you're in labor, but
before labor? Before labor, my biggest fears were I was high risk for preterm labor. So when I was 15 weeks, I had an issue where we thought we were going in preterm labor. Luckily, everything was fine, but I was pretty much high risk from there. I was just happy to have made it to the viable week 24. But of course, like I was happy to, I had her at 30 weeks and 4 days, but I was really nervous of going in preterm labor pretty much the whole entire time. So I had just a lot of anxiety about that, but that didn't happen. And she came the way she was supposed to come.
yes, that's very, very exciting because it could be so scary, all of that.
Yes, for sure.
Fibroids in itself are very, very scary. You were one of two of my friends that had fibroids, and that, it's scary. So I'm glad that everything turned out well because it could be the opposite. Yeah. Did you have any like funny or unexpected like false alarms moments?
None of it was like, funny. I might be going into labor. I didn't like, especially when you see it on TV, like where you're like, think your water broke. And I'll tell more of this in my birth story, but I didn't have like, I think my water broke. My water definitely broke. And the day before I went into labor, I started having contractions, but my, I had an appointment with my OB. And so she pretty much had told me, like, you're going into labor, like, you're going to have her tomorrow. So it was pretty much like very known, very clear that that's what's going to happen. But nothing like funny, nothing like, yeah, that was pretty much it.
It's good though. I mean, I didn't have anything either, considering I went in exactly when they told me to.
Right. Exactly. On time to the hospital.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Did I do any
prep? Yes, I did. So I wanted her to just pretty much slide out. So I did as much prep that like was medically responsible and approved by my doctor. But so what did I do? I did the raspberry leaf tea raspberry leaf tea and pineapple juice. I drank that like every day for 2 weeks leading up. I took evening primrose. What else did I do? I did my stretches. I was on the ball every day, like multiple times a day. And then I was going on a lot of walks like the last 2 weeks. So of course, talk to your doctor about all of that. Don't follow me. But that is pretty much, I was like, you need to just come out. And I wanted to, again, I didn't want to have an epidural. So I was like, I need her to just slide out as easily as possible. Yeah. I did probably more prep than some women do. What about you?
Yeah, I did the raspberry leaf tea as well. Did that every night, probably for like the last month.
Okay.
I did lots of ball movements, figure eight and, back and forth, up and down, whatever, all around, everything you could do. And then I also did stretches too. I did the mile circuit as well, even though that was a workout, which is annoying because I didn't feel like working out at all. Don't be like me, work out. And then, but I think that's it. I don't think I did anything too crazy. I did not have sex, which my doctor told me to. I didn't do that, but it was so hard. My sister is living with us, and obviously I have a toddler. There's no good time for it, so.
No, very fair. Very fair. I did the circuit too, but I only did like step 1 and 2. And that thing, it takes a long time. And I also didn't have sex. My husband would not, he literally was so stressed. It was me. Like, usually it's the man, but it was me. I was like, let's go. Yeah. And he was literally like, she'll come when she's ready. I'm not making her come out. I don't want to be like responsible for anything. And I was like, all right. So we didn't either.
That's the exact same with my partner. He's the same. He was like, I don't want you to go into preterm labor. I'm like, no, I want to. I don't want to be induced. So like, please, let's figure this out. But I don't like sex for labor's sake. It makes me nervous. I'm way too awkward.
It also was awkward because my sister texted me in like my mom and sister's group chat. I was like, literally the night before, she was like, just have sex and eat some hot wings. And I was like, at that point, I don't want to because you told me to, and mom's in this chat, and now I'm uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
I'm good now.
Like they didn't know that's how we made him, but that's okay.
Right, exactly. But now you're like saying it and word like I can read it. No, I'm okay.
Exactly. Awesome.
Okay, so my contraction started Wednesday in the morning. Naya was born on Thursday, January 16th. But I had an OB appointment. This was my first. And so I just was like, I think these are what these were. But then it became very clear. And so at first they were probably like once every 10 minutes. And then probably by the end of the day, they were like once every other hour. So then I was like, oh, I'm not going into labor. They're so far apart. It'll probably be like another week. So I went to bed and my water broke at 4 a.m. And then I quickly learned that I was actually having contractions throughout the night, but I thought it was a dream. I thought I was dreaming, but I remember like feeling them. So I was contracting all night long and I just was slept through it, which is insane.
Wow.
So my water broke at 4 a.m. It's definitely not like some people are like, oh, it'll feel like you peed. No, it was very clear that my water broke in the bed. And I tapped my husband on his shoulder and I was like, my water broke. And he's like, are you serious? And he like popped up and he's like gone to like pack and get things ready that we had already packed. But he was like gone. I was like, this is fine. I was breathing through my contractions. Everything was good. I popped in the shower. I wanted to labor at home as long as possible. I was like, I'm doing fine. And then all of a sudden they just like, they were insane. And I was like, okay, I'm no longer doing fine. And important to note that our hospital was 45 minutes away because we went to an OB that specializes in fibroids. So I labored at home as long as possible, but probably too long for a hospital that's 45 minutes away. So we left my home I think we left at like 5. I forget. We left at sometime around 5. We got there around 6 something. It's supposed to be 45 minutes. My husband got there in 35 minutes. So clearly was speeding, and we had her at 8:05. So my labor was 4 hours. We got to the hospital. I was 7 centimeters dilated. And then within like 15 minutes, I was 9 centimeters dilated. And then it was like ready to push. So it definitely was a lot quicker than what I thought it would be, especially because everyone's like, first time moms. Like, you're going to be in labor forever. Like, it takes someone that told me their labor was 53 hours. Yeah. So that's pretty much like in a nutshell. But some of the things that like I really wanted, I had my doula. My doula ended up not making it on time. Well, she made it for the delivery, but she wasn't there for like the prep, the whole entire labor. Yeah. Because she got stuck in traffic and my labor was very quick. So that was something that was different. I told myself like, oh, I'm going to labor in so many different positions. I stayed on my back because I was in so much pain. I was in so much pain that I was 9 centimeters dilated. I ended up asking for the epidural. And my doctor was like, you're literally there. You're fine. And then the anesthesiologist was like, can you be still for 5 minutes for me to do the epidural? And I was like, absolutely not. I cannot be still for 5 minutes. So I didn't end up getting it, thank God, because I didn't want to. But so that was something. I didn't plan on even asking for that at all. And then just like little things of like, I was going to use the ball and you like can squeeze a comb for your pain. I didn't even get the comb at all.
Yeah.
So things definitely changed, like those little things, but I ended up having her the way I wanted to. So she came out within like 10 pushes, which I think is one of the pros of not having an epidural. If you are thinking about not having an epidural for any moms out there, new moms, is that you can feel it, everything. So it's a pro and a con. And then my husband, because my doula was not there were some things that we talked about in my birth plan. He was like very aware of what I wanted. So he was the one that had told the doctor and the nurse, like, turn the lights off. She wants the lights off. He's the one who had them turn the music on. Very supportive the whole entire time. And he was the one that also, when I was like, I want an epidural, he was like, you can get it if you want it. Fearful of telling me no, but also being like, I think that you're okay. So yeah, it was definitely very painful, 10 out of 10 pain, but it was the labor that I wanted and I didn't have to have a C-section. So that was a really big fear of mine, of having to have a C-section with the fibroid. And my doctor said the fibroid wasn't even in the way at all. So yeah.
Well, that's super good. I love that. I'm actually super jealous of a 4-hour labor or even sleeping through contractions. I thought I had a high pain tolerance, but I guess I am also a very light sleeper. So, the moon woke me up last night. Like, no joke. It was in my eyes. And so I can sleep through nothing, basically.
Have you always been a light sleeper, or do you think it's since you've had kids?
No, it's since I had kids, for sure.
I feel like now I am a light sleeper.
Yeah.
And I was not before.
Yeah. Like, I can't stay asleep. Like, my babies breathe differently. I'm like, what's that? What is that? I heard something.
If I shake up, I'm like, are you okay?
Exactly. But yeah, super jealous of a 4-hour labor. That sounds really nice. Having gone through a labor with no epidural, 10 out of 10 pain, it hurts so bad, especially at 9 centimeters. That's when you like kind of just feel like you're about to die. You're done. You're like, I can't do this anymore. And then all of a sudden it's done. And it feels so much better.
And that's what they say, like, right when you feel like you can't do it anymore is you're there. Or when you feel like you have to poop.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you tear it all?
I did. I had 3 stitches. I don't remember. They had told me at one point. I don't remember. But she said it was very small, just 3 little stitches and like internal. So I didn't really feel like, I feel like I was in so much postpartum pain that was like not even something that I was even like focused on. But yeah, I did tear, but I've had friends tell me experiences of very large tears.
Yes,
so
I have heard of 4th-degree tears. So if you don't know what that is, just look it up. Look it up.
Or don't if you don't.
Or don't if you're pregnant.
Probably do it if you're not pregnant. Yeah, maybe if you're thinking about getting pregnant, but
yeah,
maybe not look it up.
It's terrible. Right, awesome. Well, let's talk about my birth story. It's significantly longer than yours, so I will try to condense it just as much as you did. So I went in for my induction at 10 p.m., but they didn't have my room ready, which I don't blame them particularly. I wish they would have called me and been like, hey, we don't have your room ready. Let's just, not come in just yet. If you ever are getting induced, I would give the hospital a call before you make your way in to make sure that they have their room ready, because I sat there until 11:30. And this is 10 p.m., so I sat there till 11:30 p.m. after being awake all day.
And your toddler at home.
My OB had told me that I would, get in there at 10, I'd get the balloon, and I'd likely give birth by like 8 a.m. Did not happen. That'd be a wildly quick induction if it did happen that way, which I'm learning now. Hindsight's 2020. So I ended up getting there at 11:30. They gave me so many options of how to be induced when I thought I just had the one option of the balloon, but apparently I didn't. So I could have had temperature. I don't know. I think it's called Cytotec. It's a pill that goes inside of you that helps soften your cervix, and then also the Foley balloon, which goes inside your cervix and opens up and helps dilate you. Because I went in and I was a centimeter dilated and 50% effaced. And so I ended up doing that. It was a pill that went inside, and then also the balloon. And I think around maybe 5 a.m., I was about 4 centimeters dilated and the balloon came out. And so did the pill at the same time, which is good. I was like, oh, this is going to go quick. Joke's on me. And it did not go quick. The next thing would be to pop my water or rip my water, break my water.
Break your water.
Rip my water is actually how it felt, to be honest.
I was going to say,
So it's a teaching hospital that I'm in. So they had 4 people inside my vagina trying to break my water because it was so thin. They said it was basically like around her, like just like the tightest. It was not very,
oh my God,
I don't know, bulbous in order to pop very easily. So they ended up having to like kind of like crochet needle it, like yank it out to break it. I, at the time, had a epidural though, because I was like, I read everywhere online. Reddit's my best friend. I'm on Reddit all the time. And they said, if you are going to be induced and you want to do it without an epidural, if they break your water, get an epidural, because apparently everything is just super intense afterwards. So I ended up getting my epidural, and my first birth, I ended up having to get the epidural twice, and then it failed twice as well. And so this time around, I was like, hey, I want to make sure you're doing it right. Because the last time they had to do it twice, and, obviously it is a needle in your back. And so I don't want to have to do that twice. Joke's on me. Again, did it twice.
Wow.
So I ended up getting the epidural. It did end up working the second time. I'm 5'1", and so she said for some reason they have to enter it in lower than other people, like other lower parts of my back, in order to get it to work. So I wish they would have known that ahead of time, so I didn't have to go through it twice. And yeah, so they ended up popping my water. And after that, it was kind of just a waiting game to see how I progressed. We did Pitocin very slowly. So we did it like two at a time. I don't really know how much, like you can go up to 20. So they did 2 at a time. And so that took a while to get me through the whole, getting me to 9-10 centimeters. And I was also GBS positive this time around. So that means I had to get antibiotics every 4 hours until I gave birth to make sure I didn't pass it along to Sequoia. And I ended up, I've been making this joke where if you wanted to torture your worst enemy, you could, I guess it's not really a joke, but it could be, depending on how you think about it. If you want to torture your worst enemy, give them the antibiotics, penicillin mixed with potassium, which is what they gave me, into your IV in as quickly as possible. Because that's what happened to me. And I've never felt anything more painful than that.
Wow.
Like it was, I was about to just cut off my arm. I don't want it. I'm done. I don't want to do any of this anymore. It was so
Did they
awful.
have to do it that way?
No. Apparently she was like, oh, it wasn't supposed to go in that fast. It was just like, good to know, because I have a really high pain tolerance. I know that I've done a natural birth before. I know I can do things that hurt, and that was the worst thing I've ever done in my life.
Right.
And she just like left the room and then came back in and was like, oh, it's done, after I am dying. Like I was dying. So it was pretty terrible. But after that, I had to do it every 4 hours after that. And my partner was great. Every single time they tried to do it, he was like, make sure it goes slow as possible. Make sure you're mixing it with saline. And he was great. And so
I love him.
It didn't end up getting as bad as that. The second time I had to get it, I didn't even feel it going in. So
great, good.
Not to scare anybody, just make sure they don't do it too fast.
Yeah. Not to scare you, but,
Yeah, but, it was the worst thing in the world. And then after that, it really was just a waiting game. It just happened that I was going every direction possible with all of my positions. I obviously couldn't get up and walk around because I had the epidural, but I was able to get into a squatting position with the epidural. I was able to get in my hands and knees and the peanut ball, every direction possible too. So I was, my doula and my sister and my partner were all in the room with me the whole time, just getting me into any position possible to get this to progress. And unfortunately, I think my body likes to be pregnant, and she was not dropping down. By the end of it, it was like midnight the next day. So if you're counting, we're at 26 hours. And she was still as high as possible in my womb. So we ended up just kind of trying to do I think I ended up squatting for a long time, just trying to make sure she could like go down. I think they were thinking about trying to ask me for a C-section. Didn't end up happening, which is great. But then I ended up, by the time my OB got there, I was 0 or like -1 to 0, because you're supposed to get all the way down to like +2, which is like basically she's out of your pelvic region. And so I ended up just being at 0 and starting to push, which with Abel, I was at +2 when I pushed. They didn't believe me when I told them that. They're like, no way you were. And I was like, that's what they told me. So, but
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, exactly. She was like, oh, that was here. Like maybe it was like against protocol or something. I don't know, but I was. But I have learned that if I was ever to do this again, I will not be getting an epidural, because it was so hard. It was so hard to push with an epidural in comparison. So I would take the pain over not being able to push, because I ended up pushing for an hour and a half, taking an hour break, and then pushing for another hour and a half.
Tempest.
And then at the end, I was like, what are my options? Because she was not coming out.
She did not
So,
come out.
yeah. And so the options were C-section or a vacuum. And so I had opted for the vacuum. And I remember looking over at my partner and just being like, I am so sorry. Like, if I'm a failure, I can't do this. I need help with this. And it was awful and he was like, it's totally fine. He was like, you got it. You can do it. And I just felt like, if anything happens because of the vacuum, it's going to be my fault because I can't do this. And, just for everybody out there, you're not a failure. If you need any assistance, I will go to therapy to think about that. But take it from me, you're not a failure. But she did end up coming out within, I think, 3 pushes with the vacuum. And I also learned the vacuum is not like, I assumed it was like some sort of machine, like, oh
my gosh.
It's not. It's kind of like a plunger. It's actually just like a plunger.
I'm crying.
So I think they should call it the suction and not the vacuum. But I don't make the names. So they didn't consult me.
Oh my gosh. I mean, and you bring up a good point of like, if you have to get it, at the end of the day, you're just trying to do what's best for you and your baby. I know that vacuum and forceps were on your do not list,
Yes.
right?
Yes, they were.
Same on my do not list. And one of the things that I also did hypnobirthing for my prep. And one of the things that she talked about for the course I took was that when you get to that point of just being absolutely miserable, where you just feel like you cannot go on any longer, it is okay to relook at your birth plan and figure out what needs to change for your, betterment for you and your baby. So I'm glad that you had, your partner there to just really kind of push you to positivity, because I would have felt the same way, having to lean in against what I said no to originally.
Yeah. And, just knowing that I've done it before naturally without any medication, without anything at all, it was definitely like a slap in the face. Like, oh, you're not, superwoman that you thought you were, but I am. I still have 2 healthy babies.
2 healthy babies.
And it is hard work. I think at that point, it was 26 hours of labor, 27 hours of labor. And I was at 3 hours of pushing. I was exhausted. And because that was 26, 27 hours of labor. And then I was up the whole day before I even went into labor.
Mm-hmm.
That's I was just up for days and I did not sleep. The epidural did nothing to make me go to sleep. I was just wide awake forever. It was an exhausting couple of days.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine. I really cannot. I actually remember when I started having contractions, I was going to text you and I was like, no, I'm not going to text her because she's in her own labor. I think you had her. No, you had her a few hours later. Yeah. But it was early morning Wednesday. And I was like, no, I'm not going to text her because I don't want to, it's just hard in general. But I was like, this is her day. She's going to have her baby today. And you did. So a healthy baby girl.
Yes. Yeah. And fun fact about my Labor Day, my son, who was at daycare that day, got pushed into a wall and had to be picked up and taken to urgent care to get stitches in his eyebrow. I was just like,
that was fun.
What? I swear everything that wanted to semi make me more stressed out happened.
Yeah, of course. That's just how it goes. And has that ever happened, anything like that with Abel?
No. No stitches, no nothing. And me and my partner have never had any stitches. The worst I've ever had is a sprained ankle. I'm like, what is happening? You're 2 years old and you got stitches in your face right when your sister's being born. And I can't even be there with you. But my parents took him and my mom said he was very excited because he got popsicles. So
I feel like it was like a welcoming for you that was like, welcome to the two kid life. Thank you for coming. Have a good time. And like,
I mean,
now you're
truly,
here.
because he had norovirus right beforehand too. And then I get home and he's got a cold. The next week he gets the flu, and then he gets another cold. And I'm just like, you know what? I am the best soldier of God. This is what I can do it all.
You can do anything, honestly, at that point. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. The times you've told me, I'm like, ooh, Naya, are you going to be a singleton for us? Are we
not trying to scare anybody out of you? They're great.
That's called anxiety. So it's very different.
Or, you know, we could just plan to not have a kid during cold and flu season. That's the smartest move.
You know, very fair. You did plan this one particularly, so yeah.
Yep. All right. So, did you have any feelings that were unexpected, or what were your first thoughts when you saw your baby?
Not immediately. Immediately, couldn't stop staring. I was very it was so surreal. I just couldn't believe that I was taking her home, first of all, because I was like, wait, you guys aren't coming with me home with the child. But I was just like kind of in I don't even have the words for it. It just felt very surreal. I couldn't stop staring at her. She also looks a lot like me. So I just also felt like it was just like amazing. And then kind of a side note of that is my dad passed away in January and I look like my dad. And so to like have her come out and then like look like us, have the same like nose and things like that. I just was like, just in a moment that I knew that I would connect with her, but I didn't know it would feel that strong that I couldn't even like put words to it. I just was like in a moment that I like really can't explain, to be honest. I can't explain it at all. Especially that moment when they put her on my chest, and it was the only time that she like really had her eyes open. She looked up at me, she looked up at my husband, and then she like laid back down. And I can replay that in my head several times a day. So that feeling is just a lot stronger than what people, I think, explain it to be, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just kind of how, I mean, that just in general, I can just replay that moment over and over again in my head. What was also unexpected was I was expecting her to come out and then just not stop crying because she was a newborn. I wasn't expecting her to sleep literally the whole entire day and night. Like I was like, oh, like you're not gonna like really cry at all. So I just like kept checking on her. I knew we were in the hospital. She was being monitored and everything, but I was expecting like, you know, the movies. She's crying the whole entire time. But
yeah. I think some babies cry, but I'm not sure yet. My babies have yet to cry, but I've had not great experiences right after birth. So sorry, everyone. Birth magical, I promise. Just not for me.
You're getting two sides of the coin, though. So let's very different experiences. It'd be boring if we had the same exact experience and the same exact, All
right. So after the baby arrived for me, I think I have I don't know. My body likes to have babies that don't cry when they come out. And so she was in shock when she came out and did not cry. And my partner and I were just kind of looked at each other like, well, we've been here before. Do your thing. And so we always stay, because he is very screaming. My partner is very squeamish. And so we have talked to the doula. We've talked to my sister. Like, okay, if anything happens, we just make sure he doesn't want to cut the umbilical cord. So you guys are going to cut the umbilical cord. Joke's on us, because the doctors cut the umbilical cord for me every time, because my babies just can't, they need to be whisked away every single time. They end up being the most perfect angels, but apparently they don't like to come out of my womb.
They're just dramatic.
They're super dramatic. And the more you're away, they're dramatic. It's fine. But anyway, so she did not come out crying. It took a minute for her to start crying, but they ended up putting her on my chest, which they did not for Abel, because Abel was really not breathing. But then she like latched like almost immediately, which I did not think like actually happened. When people say that, I'm like, okay, like how do they know? No, she like latched like almost immediately, which was really, really sweet. And then they went over and, cleaned her up, did what they needed to do, and they brought her back, and we got like 2 hours of skin to skin, which did not happen with Abel. So it was really, really sweet. I love the way that you talk about like how, she came out and you're, full of love with her and everything. It's really, really sweet. I feel like I'm full of like, I will nurture and love you forever. It's like, I don't know if it's like a wonderfulness, but it's like, I'm your mom and I am going to take care
Take
of
care of
you,
you, yeah.
which is also really nice. So,
Yeah. Security.
but other than that, no, nothing unexpected emotions or reactions for me. I'm fairly pragmatic with so many things that it's kind of hard to get a reaction out of me that's unexpected.
I feel like that's a really good explanation of you, of being of you my whole entire life.
Yeah.
Even like surprises, you're like, I knew that was coming. Yeah, no, but I love that you were able to, I don't think I put that together ever, that you weren't allowed, you didn't get skin to skin with Abel because he
No.
would straight. Yeah, I don't think I ever connected that, especially now as a mom, like of how huge that is and how like emotional that can be and things like that. So I'm glad you at least got to experience that with Sequoia. Not sure if
Yeah.
you're still going for number 3, but at least you got it.
We have yet to decide that we're doing it or not. But my partner is like,
Fair.
absolutely not. I can't go through that again. And me, I'm like, now we know that the baby's going to come out not breathing and it's going to be super high in my womb. Now our expectations are set that we'll be okay.
Yeah, it's honestly fine. I mean, honestly, third time's a charm. It's just gonna fly out at this point.
Exactly. Like, I'm like the third of my parents, so I'm the best.
Has to be perfect then, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes. So do you have any like big takeaways from your, birth story?
My biggest takeaway is have your plan in your head. It is not going to be perfect. Very hard for a type A girly here. Very hard. But I mean, in the moment, I remember my doctor looking at me and she was like, do you want to get in another position? And I literally just stared at her and I was like, get the baby out. I don't get her out. I just feel like you're also in that moment, and in the moment you're just thinking of baby's health and yourself and health and everything like that. But yeah, I would say that like have your birth plan in mind, like figure out what your biggest wants are and your biggest focuses are, but it's okay if it doesn't go exactly to plan, because as long as you get to have that baby on your chest, it's literally it makes it all worth it, honestly.
Yes.
And people are always like, oh, but then would you have a natural birth again? I still remember the pain. So you have to ask me in like a year when I don't remember the pain. And I would probably say yes. But right now I'm going to say, I don't know if I'm having another one, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yes, I always say, because I thought I would forget the pain too. And I think I forgot the pain, but I did not forget my memories of the pain. And so for me, I'm like, I know that my mind was like, that was the worst thing I've ever felt, but I have no idea what that feels like anymore. So I would do it again.
I mean, and that's what people do. They forget some aspect of it, an important aspect of it, and then they have it another natural birth and they're like, oh yeah, this is what I can. Yeah, it's like what you said, the memories. I remember me yelling in the car, my poor sweet husband trying to drive 45 minutes away and me yelling at him. So I know that it was pretty bad, but it's fine. It's fine.
Yep.
What about you though? Biggest takeaways, any advice, anything like that?
Yeah, it honestly would be really similar to yours. My doula always says it's a birth preference, not a birth plan, because everything can go right, everything can go wrong, everything will be fine though. So that's probably my biggest takeaway, is that, there's no expected in your birth story. Everything is a little different than you'd expect. But it ends up you get a nice baby that may or may not sleep very well, but everything is a phase after that.
A nice baby. I love that. I love it. Very nice. And now you get a nice baby they're gonna be best friends.
Exactly.
So here we are.
Yes. Built-in sisters that are far away. Thanks for joining us today on Two Moms, Too Much Coffee. And next time we're going to talk about the shit they don't talk to you about with postpartum. So that'll be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. We're still in the thick of postpartum. So
thick of it.
yes. So that'll be a fun topic.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for joining us on Two Moms, Too Much Coffee. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to leave us a review.